It's after 8 o'clock and it's tea spilling time. Good morning. Yeah, we got AZ in the building. Hey, what's up? Welcome
Hi.
to Island Tea.
Yeah, good morning, good morning. It's a Tuesday morning. It's the 4th of April 2023. Jamster, how has it been for you so far in the morning?
Well, I have a slight cold, so
Oh,
I like, phlegm and stuff.
yeah.
So I had some had some bush tea this morning.
I understand.
Yeah, I took a break from the coffee.
Yeah, the local tea.
Yeah, black tea and mint.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't have any. Did I have coffee on Sunday? No, I had tea on Sun. I had that tea alt. Like I had I think Saturday morning I had a mix of mint, moringa, and what was the other one? It might have been mint, moringa, and black tea and something else. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basil
Awesome. So you had
maybe
some
it was
local
basil.
tea this morning.
Yeah, and Sunday as well. So
That's good.
Yeah.
No regional or international tea.
well, the black
You
tea.
kept it local.
Well, the black tea. Because
Mhm.
remember, tea is a plant. Tea proper is a plant. So
Yeah.
saying making mint tea with just mint is not tea. It's an infusion, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So wait,
yeah,
so when you
or
when-
herbal tea as you would call it. But tea itself is a plant. It's
Yeah.
a particular. Yeah.
so wait,
It's like calling every drink milk.
yeah, but
You
no,
know what I
but when
mean?
you say the black tea, where your black tea isn't from here now, is it?
Yeah, black tea is the normal tea that most people buy. Then you have green tea. Then you have white
But I meant,
tea.
where is it made?
Oh, well, they usually. I think most of the teas come from the east, like
So
India,
that's why I say it's not the
India,
local tea.
Malaysia. No,
I
because
know you
no.
talk about the bush. You mean you're pulling up the bush out of your yard.
Well, the mint
Yeah.
and the moringa. We have a moringa tree now.
So
yeah,
those are
so-
the local tea. Cause you got it right from.
Well, the
here.
local herbs.
Well, you know what
Not
I
tea.
mean.
Yeah, I know, but I always. You see, I used to teach English, so I'm tend to be very finicky about
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. You know,
Mhm. So you got your local herbs to
Herbs.
make your tea.
my herbal tea. Okay, if you want to call it
Yes.
herbal tea, because usually people
Yes.
the differentiation term is either herbal tea or infusion.
Yes.
So
you had your herbal tea.
yeah, but my herbal tea had an actual tea
Uh-huh.
plus other herbs.
So what was the actual tea?
The black tea.
The black tea.
Yeah.
Which you
Tea,
with
black
your-
tea.
Which you so
Like
which
you
which
buy
you
the
bought.
tea. You but no, when you buy the tea bags, that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. You have green tea, you have black tea, and there's no white tea.
So you don't think your herbs adding to that makes the composition of a complete tea?
I don't understand the line of
For
questioning.
example, your black tea that you say
Yeah.
and your herbs.
What are you
Please.
saying?
It all comes together to make one tea.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't understand your line of questioning though.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say that you said you had the bush tea, which is I say it
Does
as
everything
local.
sound softer
you-
than usual to you? Somehow?
Nah, is it maybe I'm talking softer?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything seems okay.
Mm.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. I need to turn up my headphones more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today, April 4th, 2023, I want to leave some positive inspirations.
Well, first we should say that Candy is not going to
Yes,
be with us today. She's
yes.
a little
Yeah,
under the
she's
weather.
under the weather.
Yeah.
She's under
Get
the
well
weather.
soon, Candy.
Yeah, we wish you
Yeah.
well and we hope
Feel
that you
free.
get back here soon.
Feel free to blow us. Blow only me kisses.
That's if she can still from not being well. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but we wish her a speedy recovery and we hope that she meets us back in studio very soon. And so a little positivity, as we like to call it. There is always light if we are only brave enough to see it. If we are only brave enough to be it. There is always light if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. And so I am inspiring all of you today who are listening to be that light, to be brave enough to see it, and to be brave enough to be the light. I remember last year, Jamster, on this day, April 2022, when I got the news of the passing of my aunt Avis Douglas, and I mean, I started the morning reflecting, and I saw a post by her daughter on Facebook where she tagged me.
Why does that name sound familiar?
She once worked in the High Court and the Inland Revenue. Yeah.
Avis
Yeah.
died?
Yeah, she did last year. And so, as much as I love
I used to work with
April-
her.
Yeah, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
Inland
then.
Revenue.
I see you in a different light now, Jamster.
Yeah, that was one. She was very she was one of my actually one of my favorite to the office. She was she had a very acerbic wit, like kind of sarcastic, which I liked.
I mean, I love
Oh my
April,
God,
but
I did not know that.
yeah, that April brought a dark cloud last year, and so in as much as I love April, I'm forever remembering this moment in April.
She would call me when she sees me.
That's good.
Jamster on the radio. No, Jamster from the radio.
Yes, so I just want to those persons who have lost loved ones. We grieve in different ways. We never really get over the loss, so to speak, but we learn how to deal and cope with losing that loved one. So I want to wish everyone a fantastic day, and if you I experience a loss, which I'm sure you do, because we all suffer a loss of a loved one as we age, because that's a part of life, and so we continue to be strong and we continue to push on. Jamster, what are some of the news articles? I'm here looking at some of it on WINNFM Studio. There's some local news, there's some international news. At 8:30, we're going to have an interview.
Well, one of the things I wanted to mention was the Sir Probin Innes lecture, which was held on Thursday and which we broadcast on Sunday. I listened to it, and one of the things that came to light. Actually, I remember I told you I spoke to the professor.
Yes, you did.
On Friday, and she had mentioned this fact to me. So I had my ears pricked up when I listened. But she was talking about the fact that Eric Williams. Did I mention that yesterday? Eric Williams' mother was from Nevis.
You did mention it before.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was yesterday, but I think you did mention.
I remember I was thinking, I was saying I was gonna bring it up, but then I couldn't remember if I had told you guys. I know I told Devon.
Yeah.
Because Devon didn't get to listen, but I remember. She said that because she made a big point about the fact that Kittitians and Nevisians have seeds all around the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I mean, Bermuda, as you know, even Cuba.
Yep.
Dominican Republic.
Santo Domingo.
Dominican Republic, yeah.
Yeah. You covered the whole thing.
Yeah, and she was saying that Eric Williams' mother had moved to Trinidad, and so Eric Williams is technically, I think, he's Nevis national.
Yeah. But
so that's interesting.
So you see, yesterday, you see that we have traveled far.
Oh, and for the people who don't know, Eric Williams is a former, the legendary Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
When he made the famous quote, the one from 10 leaves nothing. And after that, it was the crumbling of the West Indian Federation as we know it. That was short-lived from 1958 to 1962. That's what I remember Eric Williams from. But she made another very good point. I'm glad you brought it back because I know Eric Williams was a historian. Yes, she also pointed out, she was lamenting the fact that most kids don't do history. History is now an alternative. Oh, it is?
Yeah. So.
Oh, wow.
Like in high school.
Yeah, so many things have changed.
Yeah, they don't do it. They don't do it.
It was compulsory when I was there.
Yeah, so it was for me too. So she said that most kids don't do it past third form. And here she is, someone. She's into international relations. So she had to fashion herself into a historian to present that speach.
That's unfortunate. As part, that's unfortunate.
So I was thinking about that a lot Sunday night, and I was thinking about the fact that because she also pointed out, Professor Byron Reed also pointed out that the problem with that is that it leaves a big void when it comes to people who are going to, let's say, shepherd our all of our history that's supposed to be taken care of.
Why I don't know why they have made it compulsory.
Oh, you mean an alternative? Yeah. Oh, make it optional.
Yeah.
I made it optional.
Yes,
yeah, I know that's what you meant.
I don't know why
they meant to say.
They made it optional. I think that, of course, if they made it having made it optional, then a lot of students won't do it because it entails a lot of reading. But that's one way in which you learn your history, and the famous quote: "If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it."
Okay. Oh, actually, she just sent me a correction. She said it's his grandmother who moved to TNT in the 1850s, which is still pretty,
okay, then.
Still pretty impressive.
Okay.
And that's still a pretty revelatory thing as far as I'm concerned.
So it shows you how close to home many of these persons are.
Yeah, and I mean, the idea that people don't want. I mean, I understand it. History doesn't seem like the type of thing that you'd probably make any money from outside of an academic environment.
Yes.
But then at the same time, you have to say, well, how many people are you going to be even teaching? And then if your let's say your remuneration is tied to, well, hey, this is a university with 1,500 people. We only have 20 people doing history, so we can't pay you as more as the people who are teaching law. Just all sorts of things.
And that's the thing. I mean, at the same time, when you look at a very small nation, St. Kitts and Nevis, or even the Caribbean, it's known as Caribbean history. If you don't have majority of your population who are familiar with history, then where does that leave you? I think history is an integral subject.
I am going to,
especially at the high school level.
I feel this is like, I actually told the professor that this was one of the things I wanted to do was, and that's one of the first clips I'm going to pull out. That clip about history, that whole part about the fact that there are not many people doing history, and I personally feel that that's a big problem. I understand it from an applied discipline perspective. I kind of understand it because it's like, okay, when I was in high school and we were doing algebra and all this stuff, I was like, what's all this stuff for? Then when I went to music school now, it suddenly became applied, and I passed.
Yeah.
I didn't pass math in high school, but then when I saw how the math could be applied to music, like A is 440 hertz, and it started to make sense, and I passed.
Yeah.
Because like algebra, who needs that? Who needs trigonometry? Who needs all this calculus and all that stuff?
But I mean, I'm sure teaching history now is much more exciting than teaching history when you and I were in high school. You have many.
Well, I mean,
you have so many.
It makes you wonder. I was speaking to a former minister yesterday, right? A former minister of government who was lamenting the fact that the old Basti High School, a lot of the mementos, you could say, like things like old yearbooks and like files and trophies, they're just they were like all over the place. No, he said no care was taken to make sure that they were properly stored and preserved and that kind of thing.
That's unfortunate.
Yes, and you see an extension of that is you see the terrible culture we have where government buildings are not. It's the same thing. Government buildings are not maintained. At ZIZ, I used to work at ZIZ.
Yes.
ZIZ has VHS tapes of all sorts of things, and there is no real institutional will or wherewithal to actually make sure that these things are stored properly. These things have to be stored at a particular temperature, a particular humidity, but I think they have stuff outside in a trailer somewhere. And tapes used to get erased and stuff.
Yes.
Like I've heard of cases of like maybe key recordings, like maybe state funerals and other key things. Just we need a tape. Let's just
So there's a
So
common thread.
there is a common thread. There is no respect for our history. There is no respect for preserving
Preservation and a
preservation and for posterity and for historical
Yeah.
purposes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good thing that the British, you know, it's a good thing that the people who enslaved us brought us here. At least they were very meticulous about keeping records and so on. Because I remember one time going to the archives and talking to Miss O'Flaherty.
Yeah.
And she actually said that. She said that more than once. She said that if one thing with the British, she said they were very meticulous about record keeping. So, like, she would talk about how, like, they would, if a slave was sold,
Yes.
they would say, "Oh, Johnny, Johnny, maybe he has a foot, and you know,
Yes.
and so and so
But
he's
you know-
36,
you know, they-
and blah
you know,
blah blah, mother of, I mean,
Yeah.
father of so, brother of, you know."
You know, well, they did that, I think, primarily for the sale of the slave, to ensure that they have an adequate description of their property. Because,
But-
you know,
But to tie into that, the lecture, the Professor Byron Reed's lecture also
Yes.
talked about, went into a lot of the history of maybe some of the plantations and plantation owners from back in the day. Like when she started digging
Yes.
into records and stuff, she started finding out all this really interesting stuff. A lot of eye-opening stuff. So here you have someone who's not a trained historian doing our history for us, because no one is interested in history. But thank God, at least academics, whether they're versed in history or not, or trained to be historians, I mean, just by dint of maybe being smart and having intellectual curiosity, you are bound to, I guess you are bound to be drawn to do some kind of
record keeping.
research and historian type stuff.
Record keeping is very important,
Yeah.
and preservation. And as you have said, it extends not only to our history, but in the maintenance of buildings and
Yeah.
structures as
Yeah.
they go down, and no one is there to really maintain them.
Yeah, we're probably boring the listeners to tears. Someone said I should give you a chance to talk. Did you find I was overpowering you?
Nah, not at this time.
alright. Okay,
Maybe
so
usually you are, but maybe
hey,
because
come on, man, come
maybe,
on.
Maybe because of the mood I'm in right now, you know, a solo mood.
my
So
God.
yeah. But I mean, I'm looking at, you know, that there was a woman injured in a traffic accident, and
Yeah.
police are investigating it. So apparently, a video is making the rounds on social media. Well, it did on Friday, that showed what appeared to be the aftermath of a collision involving a young woman on a bus. And in the video, the young woman was seen lying on the road with her right foot seemingly broken. The Royal St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force, in a statement on April 1st, 2023, said that the traffic accident occurred at about 2:22 p.m. on March 31st, 2023, along the Island Main Road outside Ross University. Yep. And both vehicles were damaged. The cyclist sustained injuries to her right leg and was taken to the JNF hospital by the EMS, where she was treated and warded in stable condition. Okay, stable condition. They say investigations are ongoing. So we really want to urge the public, those who are driving, and pedestrians as well, that, you know, safety first, and you have to be cautious because anything could happen in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. And then, you know, we had that we had that terrible accident a few weeks ago with the Slovenian couple.
Indeed.
And the female lost her leg.
Yes.
Which, that was not,
that
was not pretty to see.
It definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I know we have had some
Let's rifle through some more stories.
Yeah.
Oh, quick before we move on. It's okay. It's 8:22. Candy's here telling me that yeah, she was the one who pointed out the bit about Eric Williams' grandmother. But for some reason it got changed to mother in my. So I was teasingly telling her here that I was so wild to claim Eric Williams for Sankey Nevis that. See, there I even going saying Sankey Nevis because maybe back then he wasn't even Sankey Nevis. Maybe it was just Nevis at that point. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there were the two islands together at that point.
Which
1850s.
Oh, 1850s. Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So I told her, I guess I was kind of wild to claim Eric Williams for Nevis.
Yeah, maybe
So
you were excited. It seems that Eric Williams left an impact on you.
Yeah, I remember my aunt, Jessica, by the way. I remember
Yes.
Linda Lee had Jessica, that's the professor I'm talking. I always remember growing up on the bookshelf, she had an Eric Williams book. What was it called again? From slavery to something, or
From slavery
from
to emancipation.
something like that. Yeah, you did that. You used that in college.
Well, I didn't do history in college.
Yeah,
I did it in high school.
I remember. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
there was an Eric Williams book on the bookshelf. Yeah.
Well, Belize has imposed stricter travel rules for Jamaican and Haitians.
Yes.
Haitians have lost their privilege to enter Belize visa-free, while Jamaicans must show proof that they have paid for their lodging before they enter the country as a part of the new immigration policies adopted, and it says today, but that will have been on March 31st.
Yeah, and apparently, so I mean, we tend to think of the desperation of, let's say, Central and South Americans is iconized in the whole illegal immigration thing, and we don't tend to maybe put Jamaicans in that boat, at least as far as the USA is concerned, in terms of the mode of getting into the US. So now we're learning that Jamaicans actually go to Belize, to try to travel up, upwards to Mexico and then on to the US. I didn't realize that.
They said that they have been using Belize as a transit point for the attempts to cross into the United States illegally. And so after a cabinet meeting, they decided to impose stricter regulations on those nationals. After a thorough discussion on increasing numbers of visitors who are using Belize as a transit country to reach the United States, Cabinet determined that Belize will invoke Article 226A of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, which will allow for the Minister of Immigration to immediately impose a visa requirement for Haitians visiting or wishing to visit Belize, and require Jamaican nationals to provide evidence of fully paid non-refundable hotel reservations prior to boarding flights to Belize, the government says.
Wow.
Yep. And here it also says, because we know that both Jamaica and Haiti are signatories to the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, which allows nationals of member countries to travel freely between states for business, cultural, and tourism purposes. A ministerial task force to address the rampant smuggling occurring across Belize. So, yep.
And I see here there was apparently there was another earthquake at midnight last night in Antigua.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. I was going to talk. There was another related immigration thing, but let me touch on this earthquake. This story was posted 24 minutes ago. A magnitude 3.5 earthquake was reported northeast of Antigua and Barbuda early this morning. And according to the automatic earthquake location, the quake struck St. John's, Antigua, and Barbados, Pointe-à-Pitre, Guadeloupe, and Bastia. I think didn't feel anything. Well, that was early this morning. So, yeah. And Grenada and TNT were rocked by They were rocked by. This is the first time I'm seeing this story. This was February 28th.
Mhm.
They were rocked by an earthquake at midday on February 20th. I didn't even realize that. This is the first time I'm seeing this story. They kind of post stories kind of haphazardly.
Yeah.
Because you ever notice sometimes you read a story, and then there's a story at the bottom, and you're like, well, how come I didn't see that? Like,
yes.
you're on this app every day and you didn't, you know what I mean?
I know
So-
you mean.
So yeah, and then we have the story of I saw a story last night where
Mhm.
Mia Motley,
Uh-huh.
she met with Canadian Prime Minister, and they were discussing Haiti,
Mhm.
and apparently they pledged to work together.
Mhm.
You know the usual, the
Yeah.
usual boilerplate that these people do
Yes.
when they meet. These world leaders do. Mr. Trudeau went a little bit beyond boilerplate, though. He gave $100 million towards security and other funding for 100 million Canadian dollars
Yeah.
for funding for Haiti. So it went, I guess you could say, it went beyond a little beyond lip service. Anything else for you?
Well, your favorite person, Trump returns to New York
Yeah, it
to face historic criminal charges. So the former president, Donald Trump, returned to New York, and this article was posted 15 hours ago from his Florida estate Monday for his historic booking and arraignment on hush money charges related to allegations of sexual encounters.
Must be filling his diaper right now. You know they say he wears a diaper, right? Boy, he must have changed diapers twice in the morning already.
The nation's largest city boasted security and warned potential protesters it was not a playground for your misplaced anger. Trump's long day started with a motorcade ride from his club to his red and white and blue Boeing 757 with his name in gold letters carried live on the nation.
How dare you call the man's plane boring? No, I'm kidding. I know you said boring. That was
Yes. The mini parade took him past supporters waving banners and cheering, decrying the case against him that stems from payments made during his 2016 campaign as politically motivated. Trump is already months into a third campaign to reclaim the White House he lost to President Joe Biden in 2020, and he and his advisors seem to relish the attention.
Yeah.
Cable networks followed his plane at airports in Florida and New York with a video from the air, and a small group of senior campaign aides were joined aboard by his son, Eric Trump, who eagerly posted pictures of the wall-to-wall coverage from his seat. They say here the scene was quite different in New York, where Trump will be arraigned on Tuesday, facing a judge in the city where he built a national profile in business and entertainment, but became deeply unpopular as he moved into politics. Prosecutors say their case against him has nothing to do with politics and have defended the work of the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, who is leading it.
Let me get your lawyer take on this, because you listen to the talking heads on TV, and they say you indict and prosecute a former president, it's a terrible thing. It means that he's gonna get voted back into power, and how dare you? My thing is I don't understand this. I don't understand this kind of, it's like a pathological reverence for someone just because he was the president is not God.
Well,
He's not inviolate. If he does something, he's not perfect. So
as a
say,
lawyer, we are told, and the rule of law, that no one is above the law. It could be the prime minister, that individual is entitled to due process of the law, and that person is not above any law. So you are supposed to govern yourself within the law. And thinking about that scenario brings me back to Charles I of Britain, England, the first monarch that was beheaded by Parliament, where at that point in time it was unspoken of that a sitting monarch, would not only be before a court, but be tried for treason. Because back in the day, treason was against the monarch, basically. But how they cleverly maneuvered it is to say that he committed acts of treason against the people of England through the social and religious, the civil unrest. Sorry.
You actually don't realize how great an analogy that is, and it actually is very similar to the Trump situation.
Yes, so
because it is treason against his own country. He's the head of the country, and he, as far as I'm
once
concerned,
was the head of the country. Yes.
Well, yeah, was the head of the country, and
so it gives that, and I remember looking at things where he would have asked as Charles first, because I find history fascinating, especially certain aspects of history, and being a lawyer, when he asks
a pesky word history again, huh?
Yeah, when he asks the court on what gives them the authority to try him, a lot of legal arguments even at that time, talking about the jurisdiction of the court and the power of the court to even have him there in the first place. So it was interesting, and as a lawyer, I was like, he has some very interesting arguments,
But if any regular person had done like 1% of what Trump had done, he wouldn't have gotten to commit the other things because he would have already been in jail. And so it speaks to this. It speaks to this kind of sick reverence for the fact that he was the president. I mean, so what?
Yeah, and
he's just a regular.
I shared a video with you and Candisie as it relates to person's reaction, his supporters, as to what has happened, especially the words that he has said in terms of. I think he's used words of death or something as it relates to this.
Basically calling for another insurrection, you could say.
And they were like, no, you guys are misinterpreting what he's saying. He's not saying literally that. And the way in which they spin, I actually thought these could not be actual supporters. It has to be that this video isn't authentic, because the way in which they were able to spin what he has said into something positive
Azard,
was amazing.
Azard, you have me. You didn't watch the last two elections with Trump?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard crazier stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm like, you know what the Mandela effect is?
I think
because I think these people come from an alternate reality. Like when the reporter walks up, they just happen to come over from a slightly different version of Earth, where maybe Trump said what they're defending him with.
While during his term as president, it was to me more of entertainment. You don't hear about Joe Biden as President Biden as you did with the President Trump in terms of the media and the sensation and everything like that.
Well, even the presidency was show business for him, and someone like that shouldn't even be.
But look at this article which I've read in Loop News. Even the arrangements and the transportation from one state to another, and the grandeur and the.
But you notice the judge ruled last night that no cameras would be allowed, which I think I'm thinking maybe the judge is thinking, I'm not gonna entertain a circus in my courtroom.
It probably would have disrupted the proceedings,
and especially knowing how Trump feeds on that kind of.
He has that, and some you have to ask the question: are these really supporters of him, or are these persons who are looking an excuse to do that what they always wanted to do?
Well, there's some of that too, but I actually think a lot of his supporters are people who eventually, I think what happens is that they're so embarrassed to admit that they're wrong, that they just keep on, even though in the back of their minds they're going, I can't believe I actually went to, and they're too proud to recant.
Yes.
Right? And say, well, I think I was wrong. I'm gonna have to disavow this guy. But and it's all about owning the libs, as they say. It's all about owning the Democratic Party, and they don't care how they. I mean, they go as far as being doing and saying self-destructive things, all in the name of owning the Democrats. You know.
Do you think if he was not president, but there was a Republican leader president, do you think that the same process would have been? Do you think he would have been facing charges now?
If he hadn't been president?
If he hadn't been president, but there was instead of there being a Democratic president,
there was a Republican president?
Yeah. You think the outcome would have been different in terms?
It depends on how.
Think the atmosphere would have been different?
Well, it depends on the Republican president. If it was somebody honorable and who
really
respected,
would depend on the president,
yeah. Because Trump did everything he could to subvert his own government. I mean,
he's probably going to use this, as we see, as his next campaign launch. As a man who, if he does succeed in this,
look at how crazy
as someone who has been brought to the court and have succeeded. If it's a win for him, then it's going to be he's going to use it as traction for his.
Callers, feel free to call us. We're going to take a quick break, though.
Campaign.
But look at how crazy it is. You realize he's actually been saying, he has actually been saying that if he gets back into power, Russia will win. This is crazy. This is crazy stuff. This dude is mental. How could you? I mean, he's basically going against everything America stands for because of maybe whatever Mr. Putin has in him. Mr. Putin knows what the bodies are when it comes to him. Yeah. Right?
But
hopefully it's not.
This is 2023. Jamster. America is due another election shortly.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah.
I don't think he can win.
Nah, I don't think so either. Then
you have to remember, even when he won, he didn't win,
He'll have to go through the primaries again.
Yeah. It's important. Like I said, it's important to notice that when he won the first time, he actually didn't win the popular vote. Okay, I know y'all were gonna say it's not the popular vote, but still.
Yeah,
and
a situation like Al Gore and President George Bush Jr. Yeah, the same situation.
But you have another lunatic running in Florida, so anything is possible.
In 2000, that election. Yeah, interesting. I think there have been talks about adjusting that so whoever wins. What do you think about it? The popular vote or the electoral college?
Popular vote, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, how could someone get millions of votes more, but they end up being the winner? That makes no sense.
They end up not being the winner.
Is that? Oh yeah, they end up not being the winner. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And there's an organization. What's it called? Popular Vote something. There's an organization that advocates for.
So what do you think about?
I think they have about.
What do you think about a party that has won 5 of the 8 seats in St. Kitts, but not the popular vote?
Yeah, that's a good question. But boy,
they could have won. They could have won each constituency by 10. Over there.
Hasn't this kind of happened more than once? Where maybe you win more seats, but maybe you could allow it in that case because we have a first past the post system.
Yeah, but they have the electoral college system.
Yeah, but I think they need to go to popular vote. But the thing is, let's say a constituency might just happen to have less people than the others, which is why I guess the constitution says something. You tell me better.
About the constitution
roughly even.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Which ought to be worked on,
But is that practicable in real life, though? I mean, let's say, for example, is that really practicable? I mean, so you might have somebody living across the street who might be in another constituency simply because they have to carve out some numbers from that very same area and add it to another district. I mean, I don't know. I leave that for you politician types.
I mean, I would hope that you don't break a village in two, you know, to have one half in this area and then next half in the area. Even though Bastia is broken up in several
but I actually think Bastia should be 2 or 3 seats, though. Don't you think?
But Bastia comprises of 1, 2, and 3.
No, well, I mean more. Sorry, no. What I meant was like maybe there should be like a Bastia North. Like take for example, like I'm thinking maybe.
But there's a Bastia West. There's a Bastia East, and there's a Bastia Central.
Well, what I'm thinking is like you know that area in like oh God, what's it called? The new area there.
Taylor's? No.
No, the area.
Shadwell.
Yeah, like when you're going around to the north of the airport and. That all those
Connery?
No, I mean, come on.
What Monkey Hill?
No, what do they call it? Oh God, why am I missing the name? Like, is it Cane Gardens?
Oh, you mean that new development?
Okay, so
area?
let's say that whole area. Maybe you can take that area and another. I don't know.
You know, I think
and make it Bastia North or something. I don't know.
I think Constituency 8 has to be one of the most
not Bastia or something.
The most confusing constituency.
Constituency 8 and 1, right?
Well, yeah, and 8.
Yeah, it's confusing because 8 comes right up on 1 because of.
Yeah, it comes up to 1 in a way.
And then 8 comes up on 2 as well, which is exactly. It's kind of crazy, right? Yeah. So
and then it goes as far as Keon, and then St. Peter's, and then and I think some of Half Moon actually, Connery, the Half Moon Connery area is part of 8 as well.
Yes, yeah.
So
someone told me that. Yeah.
It's
and then the rest is 1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a constituency.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Constituency 8, I definitely think.
But
in the future,
to me, you get the impression
has
that
to be relooked.
I get the impression that whenever I ask questions about, well, why is this way? Why is that way? And then someone would tell me, well, this is what the Constitution says. You get the impression that the Constitution was written so that nothing gets done, because some of the things, the hoops you have to jump through seem like almost insurmountable as far as I'm concerned. You have to have 2/3 of a vote, and every time you add a seat down here, you have to add a seat in Nevis. Where I mean. There becomes a point where that's not really practicable because Nevis has a much smaller population. So then how does the equal population thing?
Well, you won't want provisions within your
roughly equal.
You won't want certain provisions or provisions within your constitution to be easily changed, because the constitution is supposed to be, well, not supposed, it is the supreme law of the land. And so you would hope that the provisions are as stable as possible, and if there are any amendments, it comes with a good support. You understand? Not that you change it willy-nilly.
That's a good point, but isn't there some kind of middle ground?
It's supposed to have some stability. The Constitution represents that stability within the society. And so you don't want it to be like ordinary legislation that can be easily changed.
But you see, this is part of the problem I was talking about earlier about the inordinate reverence shown to Mr. Trump or to the office of the president, even in the face of them committing clear crimes. Here we have, look at the Americans. The Americans treat the Second Amendment like it's the 11th commandment or the second golden rule. It's ridiculous with the guns thing. Kids are getting killed left, right, and center. People are getting killed left, right, and center, and then they talk about mental illness. That's like if you have a drunk driver constantly killing people and you blame it on his tires or some other stupid reason, rather than the fact that he's always drunk and always driving.
And based on articles I've read and stories and posts, it seems as though it's very easy to access these guns.
Yes. So I mean, we're gonna have to get over some of that inordinate reverence for our constitution as well. And no, I'm not saying we should be disrespectful. I'm just saying we have to be practical. If certain things need to be changed,
the constitution can be changed, but it must be changed given the rules provided within the constitution. It must act within the rules and parameters of the constitution in order to make the amendments. And so some would be
Yeah.
more difficult than others.
Now,
Some
who would
some
dare? Who would dare
provisions.
call me while I'm on the air? Let's take a break, and then I'll take this.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM. Black Sands Music Festival presents Knock Shore Night, featuring international dancehall sensation Candisie.
Look in the mirror, say yes, I'm the best, 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 best,
And
best.
Def Jam recording artist Massacre.
Only thing more worry about a feeling, lift it up and watch it sailing.
Live Saturday, April 8th at Sandy Point, St. Kitts. Get your tickets online now with Jad Cash or contact 869-664-4179 for info. Black Sands Music Festival returns with Shansia
No girl can't see me and cause problem. Them a man clown for me walk on
and
them.
Massacre.
Boy, them start it and them a run help you walk
Plus
on.
live bands and local DJs. Knock Shore Night, Easter Saturday, April 8th, a Palm Nations tour event.
It's tool season at Horsewood's Building and Nevis Center on St. Kitts and Nevis. Don't miss out on the year's best time to buy tools. Get 25% off selected tools store-wide. Hundreds of tools on sale. Slash by 25%. 25% off on tools for this tool season at Horsewood's Building Center on St. Kitts and Nevis. Horsewood's Building and Nevis Centers, the Federation's favorite home improvement stores. Some exclusions apply. See stores for details.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
And we are back. It's 8:49. Our good friend. He just pointed out the difference between, as far as the districts, the difference between voting districts, the difference between inhabitants and actual electors. Which, that's a very good point.
Yeah, that's all a part of when you have the constitution. Well, no, the boundary changes. Looking at inhabitants of the.
You want to take a call?
Sure, we can.
Island T, go right ahead.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
You and Azard.
Hey,
Good
what's up?
morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Welcome to Island Tea.
Again.
Yes, I said that because I know you are on issues on Fridays at times.
Oh, yes, on rare occasions. Yeah.
Yes, such a
Yes.
yes.
But I always listen to Island TV.
Yeah, and we are grateful. We are grateful.
Yeah, from ever since. You know, it's part of the morning routine. So to speak.
Yes.
The Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
I see here that nobody seems to really want to do anything about it until we have a crisis. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, one might say if it's not broken, why fix it? But
yes.
there are certain elements in our Constitution that seem to plague us from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it doesn't do it all the time. It depends, for instance, on things like the results of an election.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that can trigger crises. And I don't think we really should wait for that to happen. I mean, we see there are many people who saw the Constitution or present Constitution as a train wreck waiting to happen. Okay? The real wreck hasn't happened as yet, but all the elements are there for it to happen. And very often the parties speak of constitutional reform, but once in, they don't really commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's unfortunate.
It is.
And what complicates matters more is the relations with Nevis.
Yeah.
Okay,
It does.
and how difficult it is to really effect constitutional change.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also another complicating factor is the fact that there are elements of the Constitution that, if it's changed, affects other parts, and so it's very difficult to tinker with it. You know, you might as well at this stage do some wholesale constitutional reform to include things like the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, electoral reform, maybe even campaign finance reform. Because these are things that the Constitution can address and help fix our system. Okay? But as usual, the big question is who will bail the cat?
Yeah, it's going to take some work. I think
Yeah.
about even the situation with St. Kitts and Nevis, you know, the Nevis Island Administration, and you have the federal government, but there's no internal government for St. Kitts alone. And
Right.
many persons have asked the question, do we need St. Kitts Island Administration and a Nevis Island Administration and then a federal government?
But
And
that-
if
that-
so,
that's
how are we
really
going
the
to
true
work
federal
for that?
structure, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you have right. That is the essence of a federal structure. where you have-
But I spoke to Azard about this one time. I've always felt, and Mr. McMahon, you tell me what you think. I've always felt that the country is too small to have all these layers of government, because I'm looking at cost. And the other thing, having all these. Why can't we have the two elections? Why can't we have both elections at the same time? The Americans do it. They're voting for the president, then they're voting for governor at the state level, and maybe other.
And it would save the country some
And
money.
yes, and mayor at the local level. Why can't we have? I don't
but
understand
are
it.
those two separate issues, though, having elections at the same time and trying to save the cost of governing of to government.
Well, because what you're paying?
Because
What?
really and truly, what we would be recommending is three. NIA for, Nevis Island Assembly, St. Kitts Island Assembly, and then a federal structure.
That's, I think that's too much.
But in the
Well,
final analysis,
but here's
that is what is gonna.
isn't this
I
a better
think-
idea? How about
Yeah, I
all?
think that's a better idea.
No, wait.
because
How about?
it suggests last in peace? Because
But how about all
it
the?
would be nice if Nevis regarded itself as three constituencies. Don't care about things like who's prime minister, where it come from, etc., etc. But we know that there's a Nevis personality that would not allow that. Nevis does see itself as not part of they see themselves as kind of separate.
So in a sense, that
But
precludes my next
you know,
question.
There's
That
that paradox. And what's even more concerning is the fact that there seems to be this tendency to feel that things can be fixed if the personalities mesh.
Yeah.
You know, if you have good relations between the personalities in high office. And that is a fallacy.
Rather than putting in laws that would ensure,
Exactly.
regardless of person,
But,
that certain
Mr.
things,
Mac, Mr. Mac, wouldn't another tack to fixing that problem be all five parties being? Wait, I guess it's six now. Six, right?
6 now.
5. So yeah, 5. Okay, I was thinking PLP was number 6 for some reason. Okay, so all five parties, being truly national parties, wouldn't that go a long way to fixing the problem? If we could. If we could somehow maybe grow that kind of mindset.
I guess that would fix it.
Yeah,
except
ideally
that,
it
again,
would,
the dynamics between St. Kitts and Nevis as such that it's going to be difficult to establish all five parties in both islands.
Yeah, ideally
Okay,
that would fix the problem practically, because if you have a party that's on both islands and that party comes into government, they would have, hopefully you would expect them to have the same agenda, the same mandate, leading St. Kitts and Nevis. But the practicality of that happening, having a party that's going to form in Nevis and St. Kitts and have that support, that's going to take some time, I think, unless there's a coalition in
right. And the thing is, the thing with our experience with coalition government,
yes,
is mixed.
yes,
And and because they're generally unstable.
Yeah, but
Coalition.
our experience with single parties is mixed too. So I mean, what's
No, but no. I'm
mean-
saying that the simplest formula that we can have
mm-hmm.
is two parties, so that people have an alternative.
Yes,
Okay, when you have multiple parties, it really confuses the mix. All right, and it also probably makes the elections more expensive.
mm-hmm.
Right? Two parties, so that people have an alternative. No one party state, and no one party state with anybody. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not democracy. But at least two parties, and they compete with each other for the vote, right? Because could you imagine 5 parties with 5 different ideology, or to use the words that are being bandied about now, principles and values, 5 different approaches to development. That is what is really confusing in a small island.
Yes.
So I think we need to simplify things a bit more, and the Constitution, I think, could help in that regard. But get away from the personalities. We've had too much influence of strong personalities on our politics, and it's bedeviling us. Okay, let's get back to having systems so that regardless of who is in power, things are done properly. You know, and we have better relations between the two islands. I think, I mean, at least for now, the secession thing has subsided,
Yes.
but there's still that thing bubbling under the surface and holding over the head of the federation, so to speak. And it is not fair that, as is now, in order for somebody from Nevis to become prime minister, there has to be some kind of kingmaker in there somewhere, where there's an even split, and somebody gets to maneuver to be prime minister, and that is not good either.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not stable.
You have to have a lot of
we
negotiation.
I know it doesn't seem to be a priority right now, but things like constitutional reform, electoral and campaign finance and so on, I think should have been pushed at high up on the agenda at this stage, because you can bet your life there are going to be challenges to whatever changes there are, and they would not be able to be effective in time for the next election. But, let's see what happens.
Yes, I mean, I think constitutional reform, it has been on the tongues of many for some time.
For some time.
It
But
has been
nobody
quite a long
wants
time.
to touch it.
I remember being a part of the youth parliament, and I think sometime in perhaps, I think 2010, maybe even before that, probably earlier than that, but when I was in high school, talking about electoral reform and what we have to do, so it's something that's on the tongues, our tongues.
Basically, what you're saying, there's been a generation that has passed, and we still have the same.
We still have the same situation. We've had the same constitution with no real. I don't think we have had any amendments since 1983. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's up to you guys.
Yes.
You're going to have to really lobby for it in order for it to happen. Because if the present system always suits parties when they're in power.
Yes.
It's when they're out of power that things become dicey. And it's those who are in power can actually drive the change. But if it suits them when they're in power, what impetus is there for them to change it?
Yeah.
And I think that's the catch-22 that we have, you know.
Okay, it's 2 minutes after 9 o'clock. We got our weekly dose coming up with Dr. Natalie Osborne.
Yes.
And that's coming up right after we get a word from Tapwater Caribbean.
Found the sound 98.9 FM.
Do you want to improve the quality of your water? Is buying bottled water costing you a fortune? Say no to bottled water and yes to Tapwater Caribbean and Espo Water Solutions. We offer eco-friendly filtration products such as our Ultra Filter or our Bottle Pro for at home or on the go. Fill up anywhere. We also have a Shower Pro designed to protect and give you healthy skin. Visit us today at tapwatercaribbean.com or on Facebook and Instagram. Let's drink clean, pure, healthy water together. Remember, go green, save money, and save our planet.
Three minutes after 9 o'clock, and it's time for weekly dose. I almost said daily dose. It's time for weekly dose with Natalie Osborne.
Yes.
Morning, Natalie.
Yes, we have a doctor in the house to give us our weekly dose of that medical advice, you know. So we're here for it, and we're welcoming Dr. Osborne, and we're going to talk today about gunshot wounds. We know that there has been a spike in homicides. There has been a spike in the shooting again, and so I think this is a relevant topic. So persons could be or more familiarized with gunshot wounds, and you know what's associated with. So, you know, I'm going to ask a very direct question first. Might be simple, but what is a gunshot wound, doctor?
As you said, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here again this morning.
Yes.
And it's become a pleasure being here on Tuesday mornings to reach out to the community. We're talking about gunshot wounds today, and as Azard said, that it is a very relevant because we're starting to get an uptick again in the violent wound, gunshot wounds, and that impacts our healthcare in a very significant way. And as a medical professional, as a general surgeon, it will impact me, and it will impact the staff and everyone with this. So we're going to talk today about gunshot wound, and you ask a good question: what is a gunshot wound? That is nothing more than a penetrating injury caused by a projectile or the bullet, and that bullet could also be called a ballistic trauma. So that bullet penetrates the body, and that essentially what a gunshot wound is.
And we've had several instances, especially in St. Kitts and Nevis, where we've seen the uptake, as I've said before, and as it relates to gun violence. And I mean, from your standpoint, doctor, what would you say are some of the reasons for gun violence?
But the reasons for gun violence is universal, and it usually has quite a few factors. So it's surrounding the illegal drug trade usually. And everything comes down to economy. Some persons are trying to make that money using illegal means of making that money, and that creates wars, that creates sides and stuff. Then you have easy access to firearms. That is a big debate right now in the United States. Should you have limited access to firearms? We do not have that widespread access here locally to firearms because that is very controlled, and you have to go through a rigorous testing to be allowed to get a firearm. So you want to also factors would include drug abuse, any sort of drug use, mental health problems, the firearm laws. Depending on the country that you're in, the laws may be different, restricting and making it much more complex or difficult to get a firearm. And social attitudes towards gun. And of course, the biggest is the economic differences based on persons. Usually, the lower socioeconomic group tend to be more involved with this high level of gun violence. So it is multifactorial, the causes surrounding gun violence.
Yeah, and we're talking about gun violence and the frequency of the gunshot wounds. I know, do you have any statistics as it relates to worldwide? And do you have any statistics locally? So looking at it from a worldwide perspective and also a local perspective.
And I'm glad that you asked that because, science is driven by data, and we always have to have a data, and I always come with my stats. So we know that worldwide, over 250,000 homicides occur each year in the age group between 10 to 25, the young adults. And that represents about 41% of the total global homicide. Remember, homicide can be caused as a result of multiple different things. But for gun violence, that represents over 250,000, but just within that age group of 10 to 29. And it says here, importantly, for each person that is killed, of that 250,000, around 20 to 40 persons sustain severe injuries requiring hospitalization and treatment. And we know that youth violence is very serious, often lifelong, and it has an impact on persons' psychology and social functioning. And the youth violence greatly increases the cost of health, welfare, and causes our criminal justice services to be impacted greatly. In the United States, in 2020, that's the latest updated data from the CDC, over 45,222 persons died from gun-related injuries, and that was just the year 2020. And I have all local data from the Joseph N. France General Hospital. And I took some data from 2021 right up to 2023. And this is a combination of patients who would have come to the hospital. Some may have succumbed to their injuries, and oftentimes many did not make it to the hospital. But in 2021, we attended a total of about 32 cases of gunshot violence, and this is varying in severity.
You mean
32. In 2011, we saw a total of 32 patients with gun-related injuries, okay? And with this data, those were the only cases that came to the hospital, because there are some persons who died on the scene and did not make it to the hospital.
So it's 2011.
That was 2011. So in 2012, we had a total of 16 persons who came to the hospital requiring medical intervention. It ranges from severe or to minor injuries. In 2013, we had about 13 persons. In 2014, 18. In 2015, we had 22 persons coming to the hospital for medical attention as a result of gunshot wounds. And in 2016, there were about 23 persons. And 2017, there were 25. And when we got to 2018, there were about 33 persons. Okay? Many of those persons might have been admitted. Some were seen and discharged based on the level of the injury. And some persons had to have surgical intervention. Then I collected some recent data, and it says in 2029, we had 22 cases accounted for, 13 were serious, and we had about 9 fatalities. That's 2019. And in 2020, we had 11 cases where 5 were serious, varying in severity, and 6 were fatal. And 2021, we had 14 cases where 4 had varied degrees of injury and 6 had succumbed to the injuries. And in 2022, we had 10 cases of gunshot violence where 6 were injured and 4 resulted in the loss of life. And thus far in 2023, we've had 1 case that was seen with varied degrees of injury, and we've had 7 fatalities, and we're in the month of April, is it? Yes. So that's the statistic.
And looking at the statistics for 2023, we've had 8 reported. And of the 8, 7 were fatal.
7 were fatal.
So it means that about 7 out of 8, I think, is 80-something%
Yes.
Of those persons have died as a result.
Yes, and that is only for the first 3 months of the year so far.
Well, you see, it just shows how, but you can see there how misleading statistics can be. Because 1 person out of 8 died, but somehow it's 80 something percent. So it sounds. So you hear that number and you're thinking, oh, it's not as bad as it, It is bad, but you're saying, well, it's not 99%, but 1 person.
1 person, any single person, any single loss of life is not good, because it may seem like in number it is 1, but for that family who would have lost that person, that community, those kids who may have lost a parent, that is bad.
Yeah. I saw a segment on CNN the other day. They were using ballistic gel, and they were showing the difference between what happens with what a bullet from a handgun does versus an assault rifle. I was wondering, in terms of the internal injuries that you see here, I know some bullets explode and some bullets just go in and they. So, in terms of that, how difficult is that to deal with in terms of the variance in how bullets behave when they're lodged in the body?
Yes, well, we're going to discuss all of that as we continue. But I think you're talking about the devastation or the level of devastation that a bullet can do. But that's actually a good question, because you've got to talk about several different things. The type of bullet that we have, but that is not my area of expertise. My focus is the injury
which is what I was asking.
So you want to take into consideration, guns can be classified a certain way. The velocity of the bullet, the point of entry, the location on the body where this bullet has penetrated. Okay? You want to know the affected anatomy or organ. The trajectory of the bullet is very important. We have this idea or this thinking that if a bullet doesn't necessarily travel in a straight line, because there's ricochet. It can bounce off and change direction within the body. So the point of entry and the point of exit is not usually a straight line. And so something very important you want to think about as well. You've got the trajectory of the bullet and the fragmentation. It's the damage that the bullet causes as it penetrates. So it breaks up all this tissue and it creates this cavity. You lose tissue mass, you lose blood vessels and stuff as the bullet penetrates through the body.
Wow. So that's some really graphic information, and what are some common causes of death after the gunshot wound?
Well, common causes of major damage that can result in loss of life is injury to blood vessels, severe blood loss. That's one of the main things that happens that could cause the loss of life immediately. So that comes down to what blood vessels are injured. Usually, if you catch one of the major blood vessels that is in the body is called the aorta. That is the largest blood vessel. It comes off of the heart, it passes through the chest, it passes down into the abdomen, and it distributes throughout the entire body. And if blood vessels like that with large volumes of blood pumping through it each second, that person can have devastating results, and that can lead to hypovolemic shock, where you bleed out, as we say, all right? Yeah. And then you can also injure the heart. That's a very important organ. If you injure the heart, which is the pumping muscle that sends blood throughout the body, that hole, a bullet in that heart, leaks out the blood, and that blood that is usually pumped throughout the body can no longer be pumped. And that's what you have, that internal bleeding. And that leads to death that is quite sudden. You can injure the heart as well, and not just the heart, the lungs, the liver. If you injure the spinal cord, that can lead to sudden death. If you have a gunshot wound to the brain. So you have to take into consideration the location of the gunshot wound that can cause the severity of the damage.
And I imagine you probably have a lot of deaths as a result of the collateral damage maybe caused to, say, the intestines, where you could have, I guess, peritonitis could develop because of maybe fecal matter getting into the body cavity and stuff like that?
Yes, of course. But if you were to have injury to the bowels, that gives you a little bit more time. But if you're the immediate loss of life is usually to massive blood loss, where the person, the medical word would say exsanguination, where you bleed out. You would have heard that the person's bleed out because you have a major blood vessel that is injured and the person loses a lot of blood.
Yeah, and talking about the bleeding out and the what you've had that gunshot, you've had that wound. How are these wounds managed? We're talking about the bleeding out and everything like that.
There are different stages in managing these wounds, especially at the scene of the injury, okay? Especially you have some, it could be at the level of the onlookers. You have someone who's there, they sustain a gunshot wound. You want to usually apply pressure at that point to try to stem some of the bleeding. So that's one of the first things you want to do. And of course, you want to call for help and do the best to. You want to protect the cervical spine or the neck by immobilizing it to avoid any further damage or create any damage there as a result of the gunshot wound. You want to make sure, call EMS, call the ambulance. Once the EMS comes there, they can start to do certain things, moving the patient, putting them on the trolley. You want to be able to get an IV access to give some kind of blood volume to kind of replace some of the blood that has been lost. So there's some basic things that we always do in trauma. Okay,
Yes.
where you have your ABCs. You want to look at your airway, making sure that there is nothing blocking the airway, the person can breathe properly. If you want to give them oxygen, if you have access to that, you want to then think about the circulation. If they're losing blood volume, you want to then rehydrate that person where you get an access to the person blood vessels. You want to take blood samples so you could group and cross match them. What does that mean? You want to be able to access blood because you have to replace the blood that is lost. And meanwhile, you hydrate the person, put in your IV fluids to try and keep up the blood volume. You also want to look at and make sure that there is no other injury, no deficit. That person makes sure that they're able to move their limbs based on where the injury is, to see if there is any nerve injury and a neurological injury, if that person is unable to move because if they're shot in the tummy and it has injured the spinal cord. So you're evaluating these things. And you want to expose the person. Take off their clothes, disrobe them, because you don't want to just assume that there's just one bullet. You want to inspect the entire body, look at the anterior aspect of the trunk, look at the back, because oftentimes a person is lying down and you just assume, oh, there is just one injury, but you haven't moved the person or log rolled the person to see and ensure that there's no injury into the back, and you can miss injuries like that.
Well, I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I'm thinking, you've seen someone lying on the ground in a pool of blood, and there are so many things that need to be done, perhaps in a first instance.
In the first instance.
That makes the EMS really, really important in terms of getting that person to the hospital as quickly and as safely as possible without any enhance or any complication as a result of making it worse, I mean.
Would I be right in thinking that gunshot wound victims have a lot of ongoing issues because of maybe collateral damage caused in the body to other systems? Because it seems to me, I mean in the sense that you get a bullet that say goes into the trunk, and maybe it nicks a lung, and then maybe the person might have ongoing problems. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if you see what I'm saying.
But when you're assessing
because it goes beyond just the bullet wound.
Of course. Remember, we in the medical field, we're looking to see the overall damage that the bullet has caused and not just the bullet itself. So once you're doing that, you're doing a general evaluation of that person. So when that person gets to the institution, to any hospital, you would do several things. If the gunshot wound was sustained in the chest, you want to do a chest x-ray, you would do a CT scan, different things, and you're working up that person, ensuring that you do not miss any injuries, okay? But some of the injuries may and need to be addressed based on the level of severity and what takes priority. Of course, some of the most important things is to stem in any blood loss. because you can have secondary injuries that you can deal with, and you have some time later on to come back and address it. Because the first instant doesn't mean that you abandon the patient. Afterwards, the patient is followed up consistently, and then you continue to evaluate, study that person, and if there's any secondary injury that comes up.
I think for clarification, what I should have said was is when I saw that thing on CNN and they showed what happens to the ballistic gel after a rifle shot from the cavitation effect was so large. I was thinking, God, there must be like a whole lot. That's what that question was about. Maybe I should have explained it better.
Yes, and that is what we speak about, the fragmentation. The bullet leaves a whole devastation in its way. And so, of course, if you have a big open wound, you have to assess all of think of all the potential organs or structure within that area, and knowing that you're going to have to address those.
Yes.
And you can, you ready to take calls?
We can.
Okay.
What could
So,
you remind the audience?
Call us. The numbers are 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. We had some calls earlier on, but I know you tend to want to do your spiel first before you take calls. So call us. Your calls are welcome for Dr. Osborne. Okay, so we have our first call. Caller, go right ahead. It's Weekly Dose with Dr. Osborne. Go right ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Jamso, and good morning, Dr. Osborne.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good program. Yeah, Dr. Azard.
Thank you.
First of all, Azard.
Yes.
Avis was your aunt, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, she was my co-worker at the Basel Health Center in the 70s.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So I missed her too. So you are my co-worker-in-law.
Yes. I like that connection. Thank you. And it's always good to hear. It's always good to hear stories and who've worked with her and everything like that. It helps.
Yeah.
Only
She was a nice person.
Only culture could come up with something like that. Co-worker-in-law. Let's go on to the other call. Caller, go right ahead. Hi, caller, go right ahead.
Caller.
Hello, caller. Interesting. Hello, caller. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So let's take me to we've already.
Okay, call again.
Okay, we have a caller.
Hi, caller. It's Weekly Dose. Go right ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I get cut out. Dr. Osborne, question. I heard you said gunshots. You know, if the shot injured the main vein that carries the blood all around the body, then the amount of blood that person would lose, that would be the cause of death. Now, suppose somebody get the head blow off. When I say off, I mean bust open, blow off. Then you think why should there be a need for them to have an autopsy again to see what the person died from? I listen after here for your response.
Well, because that instance is a medical legal issue. Of course, you always have to have an autopsy because it's going to become a legal issue later on. So you have to have proper documentation of all of the injuries that took place. So that would be the correct response.
To be fair, I used to wonder about that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but nothing is just obvious because sometimes we may assume that. But when you get to the court, there's some back and forth with the lawyers. You have to be precise. What is the cause of death? Or we injured XY organ. So that is why it's important. It's not enough because a person was shot. You need to know what injury occurred. So you have those documented. Did it injure the liver? Did it injure the gallbladder? Did it injure the stomach? Did it injure the heart?
Because you might have some cases where it is that maybe it's not the gunshot that has really killed the individual, but something else that has break the chain of causation.
And then the defense attorney is going to use things like that. So you have to be precise in your documentation.
Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah.
When you have law,
it's nice having a lawyer co-host.
Land med fuse. Yes. So take me to the examination room. There, I am a doctor intern, someone in training, and someone is there who has been brought to JNF, and they have been shot. What happens then? in that medical room.
In that medical room. Okay, remember it's a multidisciplinary team. We have a small staff, so I want to make sure that our listening audience know that most of the workers are not there sitting at 2 o'clock in the morning. The operating room staff is not there because that's the same team that works throughout the day.
We have a call, okay.
Call, go right ahead.
Good morning.
Oh, hi.
Good morning.
Okay, just making sure you're hearing me. One quick question. As I always wonder, for the same reason, like persons who might have gotten shot or maybe even an accident, vehicle accident. If they survive, and because you're talking about gunshot, let's stick to that. If somebody survived the gunshot wound being treated in the hospital and then discharged, is there a bill sent to that person, or do they just get away with it like that?
Okay, there is usually a bill because healthcare is extremely expensive. We also said that is one of the impact of gun violence. It affects the healthcare system, all the social services. It affects the legal system as well too. So healthcare is extremely expensive, and you can add up thousands of dollars in the operating room using the resources in the ICU. So yes, there is a bill, and that is for most countries.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think...
So you were asking me earlier, so let's complete that while we wait. That sometimes, what's the step once you get into the hospital? Of course, we said it's a multidisciplinary team. You have the emergency room staff that is there on duty. That includes the doctors, the nurses, the EMS and stuff. So the patient is brought in, usually by the EMS, and then they're assessed. Of course, we start doing things. We spoke about the ABCs, your airway, assessing the patient, make sure that they can breathe well, that there's nothing obstructing their airways. You want to then make sure that you can adjust their...
Yes,
you want to make sure that you can address their circulation, group and cross match. A lot of these persons, if they have to go to the operating room and they have significant blood loss, you want to ensure that they have blood to replace them. Okay? You want to also then examine the patient, start looking for the point of entry, look and see if there is a point of exit, and determine, does this person needs emergency surgical evaluation? That point you would have to call in your general surgeon. As we say, it's a small team. The person is not there seated. So you have to call in your general surgeon, or you'll have to call in your orthopedic surgeon, your vascular surgeon, or several of these different surgeons to make a determination. Also, you may have to call in the operating room staff, okay? And then you take that person to the operating room based on what you think your findings is. Also, you want to get your x-rays, because your x-ray technician, they're on call as well too. They would have to come in if you need certain x-rays, if you suspect that there's an injury to the lung, a bone fracture, or break in the bone, things like that. So it's a multidisciplinary team, but we do not have the volume of staff nor the capacity to have a staff there most of the time. So we have a core staff, and then all the additive services can come in on a needs basis.
You know, that puts in my mind that when you hear about these shootings and someone has suffered from a gunshot wound, so many things have to be put in place. You have to call up practically majority of the team who aren't there. So it still has that time that those individuals have to run, so to speak, to the hospital.
Yes.
And
as the person spoke about earlier, the cost, all these adds to the cost and the volume and the strain. And why we speak of such a topic? Because it is relevant. Oftentimes, people see these things in isolation, but it affects everyone and each of our lives. And then even the staff is left with trauma as a result of these injuries. So persons may think, the gunshot wound or the gunshot violence only happened with a certain society. But no, it affects all of us in turn, because it affects us, the staff that is at the institution, psychologically, the strain, the financial strain on the resources that are oftentimes limited, and as well as the family and the supporters and the well-wishers around. Yeah. So it's a very, very complex.
It's very complex, and society is, because you think about the person who has to leave his or her family, whether it's a male doctor, female doctor, rushing to
Yes.
the hospital, it's a lot, because persons probably think before that these persons would have been at the hospital and perhaps doing the overnight shift or something like that. But again, based on our resources, our manpower, those persons aren't there at the time. So when you're taking that person from the ground who has been shot, going through JNF, you're calling up the doctors at the same time. And
remember,
everybody
it's
else,
the same staff that would have worked throughout the day.
And that's
and
exhausting
that the
on
staff
them.
has to come back to him. And another point I would like to make is oftentimes the persons in the community think that once you get a bullet out, that solves the problem. Because we would have dealt with patients and their families. Doctor, you got the bullet out? Once a person has been shot, we know that a bullet, a gunshot wound is a high velocity. It ranges from low velocity, medium, but these are bullets that are going in seconds, feet in seconds. And it creates the problem is the damage that it creates along its trajectory or its pathway, not the bullet so much. Once the bullet has stopped, the bullet no longer creates a problem. It's a metal object. People live with metal plates, metal screws in their body. But it's the damage it would have created, and that is what the surgeon or the doctors are looking for, the injuries, to repair the injuries to the blood vessels, to the stomach. If there's an injury to the heart, you're able to salvage that. If there's an injury to the liver, that is what you're looking for, to repair the damage that the bullet would have caused, and not necessarily looking for the bullet. If the bullet is easily accessible, you can remove it, because it also helps in the legal aspect. But if the bullet is in a place, you don't go searching for it, because you can create more damage looking for that bullet.
A quick question on that before we wrap. I always wondered why those cases where fragments had to be left, how is it they don't create infections?
The same, because it usually wouldn't create an infection. Once that the whole process is settled down after, it's just a metal object. As we say, persons live with metal plates, metal screws.
Yeah, but that's a little different, because that might have been like surgical steel or titanium or whatever, which would have been put in a sterile environment.
In a sterile environment, of course. But once you've controlled that initial thing, remember, we're treating the patient as well with antibiotics. We're using antibiotics to cover that person. Once that initial infection is resolved, that bullet can stay there without.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
But the takeaway is that we have to decrease the gun violence, because what it does, we lose a lot of our young adults, we create havoc in the community, it puts a strain on our healthcare system that is quite fragile, okay, and it strains our resources that we already have. And we have to understand that arriving to the hospital, getting to the hospital, doesn't mean that the person's life would be saved, because the bullet itself could have caused severe injury and severe damage.
So we have been talking about gunshot wounds. We have some tickets here from Black Sand in promotion of the event.
Which we'll give away next.
Yeah, which we'll give away next. But we've had some questions, but because I know that some callers, this is a medical program, and I'm sure some persons would have been listening. I'm asking the doctor to formulate a medical question based on what we've discussed here.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, what we've discussed here. Just ask the callers something simple from your presentation. Yeah, so they could win a ticket.
Good point. I like that. I like that. You're such a professor. Yeah, that was 9:34. Okay, so
yes. I'll ask a question. Okay. What would be some of the reasons that contribute to gun violence? Any reason? Okay, give us 2 reasons that contribute to gun violence.
That's good. That's a good question. So callers, if you want an opportunity to win Black Sand tickets, and it's Massacre Sensia. I pronounced that right?
For April 8th.
Massacre and Shensia.
Yes, for April 8th, 2023.
Shenyang.
Yeah, it's Nakshore Night. It's a general admission, and it's your opportunity. You could win it now and give it to someone. So call. What are some of the
reasons for gun violence worldwide?
For gun violence worldwide.
Yes.
We just asked you to give it 2.
We see they were listening.
Yes.
Yeah. So give us a call, 466-0989, 662-0989, and 0989. You guys are going to make me give those numbers over and over. You guys know the numbers. Come on.
Yes.
Give us a call.
Give us a call.
Yeah, and I guess we can wrap in the meantime.
Yes.
So we just hope the concert on Saturday we don't have any of these things that the good doctor has to contend with because of violence.
But think about it.
So on.
Please, the setup, because the setups, even just getting the person is there is one thing, but getting all the persons who need to be there to treat that individual is another, based on the fact that you're dealing with a staff that would have been in there before.
Yes, but I don't want that to be a thing, because that is never really a problem as to say, because usually the staff are well aware, the staff gets to the hospital in a timely manner, because if the injury is devastating, whether you are there or not, the injury would have its outcome, and sometimes often fatal. Okay, so what we want to do, our core has to be prevention. If we prevent some of these injuries, we wouldn't have to put a strain on the system that is already fragile and the limitations that we have. So we want to stay with prevention first. And we want to encourage the young persons. You can have a fun without creating chaos.
Exactly.
And you have to be cool and mannered. Not everything you got to get riled up about. Sometimes people are so short-tempered and so impatient with each other, and that is what Lisa is. So that is where education comes in. We have to learn to be supportive and uplifting of each other. So we prevent that point where you have to resort to violent.
Yes.
Caller, go right ahead. Are you trying for the Knock Shore Night giveaway, Shensia and Massacre live in Sandy Point as part of Black Sand?
Knock Shore?
Yes.
Knock Shore. Is a Knock Shore Night.
I am not one of the Africans what the boat turn over,
Is a Knock Shore Night. You could win the ticket, Culture. You could win the ticket and gift it to someone.
I will, if I win it.
Yes. So the question,
repeat
Doctor.
the question there for me now.
What are some of the reasons or some of the stuff that contribute to gun violence? The factors that contribute to gun violence.
The presence of a gun. Having a gun.
Yes, accessibility to gun. Yes. So
That
access.
contributes to
Yes,
gun
that's
violence.
one. What else?
And, well, you see what happened to when some people need to thief and they don't want anybody to see them, they use a gun.
So why?
To clear out any eyewitness.
So you're talking about socioeconomic. So you're saying that's another reason, socioeconomic differences or limitations for some persons that leads them
another
to.
Thing, and another answer is that you could stay from a distance and take out who you want without anybody pointing the finger and say they see you running, going on, so coming up so.
Culture, were you listening to the show?
Yeah, but I get distracted between. Get distracted between.
Alrighty. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's close. He was close. He had one.
I don't believe you're giving Culture a ticket. He doesn't want one anyway.
Let somebody choice if they could win me.
I could see the good doctor trying to help you.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's not accepting the assistance.
I know. So okay, it's 9:39, folks. It's basically the end of the weekly dose, but we are trying to get someone to call in so we can give away one of these Black Sand Knock Shore Night tickets.
Let me listen again.
Yes, based on the doctor's presentation this morning, we were looking for two of the factors that she mentioned that cause gun violence, and you can win yourself a ticket to see Massacre and Shensia live on Saturday night.
April 8th, 2023, Knock Shore Night.
Yeah, so folks, give us a call, 466-0989-762. Okay, here we go. We have another call. Caller, go right ahead.
Morning.
Hey,
question to answers to the question. One, domestic violence. Two, drug-related matters. And access to guns.
Yes. Excellent.
Okay, good. That's good. Jamso, you need to get the
caller's information.
Yes, off the ear. You won your ticket to Knock Shore Night, April 8th.
All right.
Yes. Thank you for calling.
Okay.
The name, how am I going to give you the information?
Well, I'm gonna
take it off our line.
I'm gonna put you on hold now, and then I'm gonna come and speak
fine.
to you. Okay, great, sure. Okay, you guys can continue in the meantime.
Perhaps you could have another medical question.
Okay, you want us to give another question? Uh-huh. Okay, let's see. What would be some of the factors that influence the level of severity of the injury? What are some of the factors that influence the severity or the devastation of the injury from a gunshot wound?
Okay, some of the factors that devastate the injury.
Some of the factors that you have to take into consideration when you're talking about the level of devastation from the gunshot injury.
I remember those, but I don't know if the caller would. But let's see.
Some things that when you have a gunshot wound, what things you have to keep in mind that would influence or factor in as the level of injury, the severity of the injury?
Yes.
Even one you should be able to tell us.
One would be good. I think one might be.
Because you can say, if I'm shot versus if I'm shot, that's a clear one.
Okay then. So we have to keep rapping. So because he's on the call, so we encourage in person. He's on the call right now, so he's getting the information for the first winner. We want to have a second winner though, and so while he's still on the call, he won't be able to take other calls, but we want you to keep calling, because as soon as he's finished with that call, which he is now, we want to have another caller, we want to have another winner, we want to have a second place. So let's go, not a second place, but a second winner. Go ahead, caller. Hey, good day.
Hello?
Hi, caller. Go right ahead.
Try to stop the bleeding.
Try to stop the bleeding. Turn on the radio in the background.
Well, we have a lot of calls now. Wow. Okay,
call.
this person now. Let's move to another caller. Caller, caller, go right ahead.
Hey, good day.
Oh, hey, go ahead.
Point of entry and the velocity of the bullet.
Excellent. Point of entry, because where the bullet enters is a huge factor. Yes. Okay, that's good.
Yes. Okay, caller, stay on the line. Congratulations. We're going to come and get your information.
Yes.
And
you want to give one more person then, since someone else was here?
And then the last question can be a music question. Yeah,
okay,
like
so we'll have a third medical question and the last one.
So we expect Natalie to show up at the consultants.
But you know what's good? It shows that persons were listening, because velocity at entry was there, you know. So we could have the third question.
You want me to give another question? Okay, so give us 2 ways how we go about managing the wounds.
Yes.
How do we go about managing the gunshot wounds? Anyone?
We're going to have some medical interns after this.
How do we manage a gunshot wound?
So we want to encourage you to continue to call, because right now Jamster is on the line. He's collecting the information for the second winner. And so we want to have a third winner, because we have more tickets to give away. We want you to be there on Knockshore night for Black Sand. We want you to be able to see Massacre and Sincere. We want you to be there on April 8th. So we're going to have, we have a third question. So I'm going to ask the good doctor to repeat the third question. So while Jamster is still taking the information, persons could be aware.
Okay, so the question that we place out to our audience is, how are gunshot wounds managed? And we're just looking for 2 things that you can tell us. How do we go about managing gunshot wounds?
Yes, how do we manage gunshot wounds? So Jamster is still collecting information. Oh, now we ready. It's a go. So how do we manage gunshot wounds? Callers, it's your opportunity to win another ticket for the Knockshore night, Massacre and Sincere. We have any callers, Jamster?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
That caller, I think, is definitely going to the concert. I can tell.
Knockshore night.
Yes, Knockshore night. How do you manage gunshot wounds? Come on, callers. It's an opportunity for you to win a ticket to Black Sand, St. Kitts and Nevis at Sandy Point.
Okay, here we go. Caller, weekly dose, go right ahead.
Yeah, you manage it by sanitizing the area and keep it clean.
Yeah. Okay. And what else? It's 2 weeks.
We asked for 2.
Mm-hmm.
2. Okay, protect it from germs.
Well, that's more or less you said one thing.
Oh, okay, manage it. Okay.
Also, you think you're smart, huh?
Supply the medical needs.
Good.
Well, anyway, suppose I drift from the white sand to the black sand. I gonna get it still.
That was a good attempt. How many answers did he get, Doctor?
We will give him 1. He still hasn't given us a second.
Get off the phone, Culture.
Yes. Okay. See if you can.
Thanks for the comic relief.
He was so close twice.
I know.
You know. Yes.
So yeah.
What are two ways in which the gunshot wound could be managed?
2 ways in which a gunshot wound can be managed. You can win yourself a ticket for Massacre and Shensia at Knock-Show Night, part of the Black Sand Festival for 2023. It happens on Saturday night, and we go to the 4 nights. Go right ahead.
Good morning. Apply pressure to the wound and turn the patient over to see if there's any more puncture.
Cool. Yes, that's a part of the exposure, so that's correct. Yeah. You have to examine the patient thoroughly and ensure that all wounds are documented.
Sounds like a triage specialist.
Yes.
You know, it shows that persons will listen to the program.
So she wins. She wins, right?
Yes, okay. yes, she wins.
Okay. Congratulations, caller. I'm going to get your information now, and they're going to continue chatting in the meantime. The next question has to be a music question.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll let Jamster deal with that one, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yes,
So
yes.
you guys can continue chatting.
Yes, so
let's do a wrap up.
Yes, so we're going to have the wrap up now for the medical dose, the weekly dose. And what do you want to say to persons who have listened? Of course, you've had an audience. You were able to ask 3 questions and get the answers based on your presentation, which shows that persons have been listening.
Okay,
yes.
Excellent. So in summary, though, we want to let our audience know how severe and difficult gunshot wounds are to manage. Mm-hmm. It takes a multidisciplinary team, and even so, in the best of countries, a lot of these results in fatality because of the level of violence or the guns itself. Okay, they're designed to be killer instruments. They're designed for that. The high velocity at which the bullet leaves that gun, it is made to devastate. So we want to know that if you point a gun at someone, which we encourage that you do not do, you know that the end result is not going to be good. So we want to encourage to be calm, speak, instead of using violence to get your point across. We have to get to places and counseling and different discussions and that persons can have before they allow themselves to get to that place of violence. Because when we do, there is no turning back, and the result can be very traumatic to the staff at the institution. It takes a lot of resources from the institution. It puts the staff at risk, even when sometimes some of the persons are at the hospital, and violence comes to the hospital as well too. We've had incidents like that because somebody feels that they need to come and take retribution or come and do that. We want to discourage those type of behaviors, and knowing that we don't want to keep losing our young people in the society, because the young people are the future of this country.
Wow. So guys, thank you for the medical dose this morning. It has been very interesting.
We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Our weekly dose.
Okay, thank
you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Yes.
Okay. Now we got one more ticket to give away. It's 9:49. We're going to take a quick break here from Rams, and we're going to be back.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Hey kids, drink healthy!
Reduce sugar chubby with the same great taste. Lots of magic fruity flavors, drink the more healthy way.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby, chubby.
25% less sugar chubby. Be active, be healthy, drink lots of chubby. Kicking, football, playing cricket, having fun in the sun.
It's chubby.
Reduced sugar chubby keeps you cool and refreshed.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby, chubby.
25% less sugar chubby. Jumping rope, running races, have fun.
It tastes so yummy, chubby.
Drink the more healthy way.
Just picking up the pieces from the puzzle of life on my journey. Man, I want be a dark, must stand sturdy. Me no want be a night, me no want be a day. Only thing me worry about a feeling lift up and watch it sailing, catch on the railing, cause them want to take me out. Half it when me bearding paranoid, me hardly raving, mount a youth in the graving from them this. Tell them me saving mount a title when me naming mount a title when me aiming from
So we gave you a little bit of Massacre Pieces. And we got a ticket to give away.
Yes, Jamster, you said that musical, because I see no questions in here. So let's go. What music?
Okay, she wanted to, she actually had a good question there about.
You saw it?
Yeah, there was a question here about.
Let me see. I have to check. Is it in the chat?
Yes, we had a special guest host during Women's Week who was also a contestant in the Miss Black Sand pageant some years ago. Name that person. I thought that was a good question. So.
Yeah, that's good. I have to open the chat.
Okay.
So it is okay. So guys, we had a very special guest host during Women's Week who was also a contestant in the Miss Black Sand pageant some years ago. Name that person. I'm going to repeat. We had a very special guest host during Women's Week who was also a contestant in the Miss Black Sand pageant some years ago. Name that person. So we are just going to make sure that persons have their tickets ready. We've already given away 3 of the 4 tickets. And so it is Black Sand Bangalang Music Festival I'm seeing on the ticket. And it is St. Kitts and Nevis at Sandy Point, Massacre and Shenseea, April 8th, 2023, Knockshore Night. So it wasn't during Women's Week that we had this contestant, but she was a guest host. She was a guest host with me on Island Tea, and she has entered the Black Sand pageant some years ago. So name that guest host. No Jamster. Are there any calls?
Yeah, we have a call. Man, that was actually an excellent question. So
yes.
Okay, so let's go to the phone lines. Call. Okay,
we missed that caller. Let's have another
caller.
call.
Go right ahead.
Hi, is it Unoma Allen?
Yes, you won. You won our final ticket. So for the giveaway today.
It is Unoma Allen. Imagine one call.
Yes,
just like that.
Just like that.
So we gave away 4 tickets today because we never got around to giving away today. So that's our 4th winner. Caller, just stay on the line. I'm gonna come and get your information, and
yes,
you can come and pick up your ticket. Of course, you know what Win FM is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes.
Unit C24, the Sands. Okay, so I'm going to put you on hold, and Azard will...
Yes, I will continue the conversation. So we have had a very interesting conversation here this morning. We started out speaking about a lot of things that are happening in the news. We talked about constitutional reform. We talked about the political structures. We talk about what is happening in the United States of America with the arraignment of former President Donald Trump. We talk about, the American election that is to come in 2024. We also had with us here this morning our doctor, Dr. Osborne, for our weekly dose, and she spoke about the topic. She spoke about gunshot wounds, and with the increase in violence, gun violence over the couple of months, and let me say the increase in fatalities over the couple of months, because we've had, based on her statistics, we've had 8 instances where it has been violence via gunshots, and out of those eight reported 8, there were 7 fatalities. And so and again, as she summarized, when these guns are made to destroy, these guns are made to have a devastating impact on the body. They are killing machines. So of course, one takes that into consideration when one uses a gun. And so there's so much that the doctors can do to save a life, because these are killer weapons. They're made to destroy. And so we want to remind persons that on Thursday 6, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., there will be a sweet potato medley. So it's a sweet potato medley, and the highlights are...
You remember that was the thing that the farmers were talking about on the first farm report?
Yes.
Remember? Yeah.
Oh,
the melee.
The melee.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. So it's sweet potato. Sweet potato is actually one of my...
like a sweet potato festival.
Yeah, it's like... I love sweet potatoes. Yeah. So the highlights, let's see. I'm seeing the poster, and I'm seeing... So it's valued added sweet potato products.
Well, you need glasses?
Sweet potato fruit cake, sweet potato cookies, sweet potato wedges, cookies, sweet potato salad, sweet potato meals. Research data on sweet potato, sweet potato dish competition. I love sweet potatoes. I think sweet potatoes are so amazing. It's one of the
healthiest things you can eat.
They're sweet, but yet they're healthy.
And they're healthy,
So they have that sweet flavor. So you don't have to feel all that bad when you have that sweet treat.
Sweet potato dish competition, basically, in short. So this is
and that's the 6th of April.
6th of April. That's over on the strip over there, where that is. Across from the football field.
I'm definitely. I want to try that. That is. Yeah. I love sweet potatoes.
So the sweet potato melee, it's brought to you by the St. Kitts Farmers Cooperative Society. It's like we said, it's from 9 to 6 on Thursday. Boy, that's
9 to 6. So if you miss it in the morning, you could get some in the evening, provided that there's still sweet potatoes there.
So that sounds good.
So you could have sweet potato for breakfast, you could have sweet potato for lunch, and you could have sweet potato for dinner.
For dinner. Mm-hmm. And I love sweet potato fries.
Yeah.
I don't even go through the thing. Some people do this thing where they try to make them crunchy. They don't have to be crunchy. As long as I just toss them with paprika, maybe some cayenne pepper.
Yeah.
Rosemary, and a few other things. Olive oil, and then bake them, and man, there you have it.
You ever use sweet potatoes in the air fryer?
No, I was thinking of getting an air fryer, but I wanted to get a bigger one so that when we do stuff, you don't have to be doing more than going back and doing another batch, because I have a daughter who eats like a truck, so so you have an air fryer?
I don't have one, but
you're planning to get one too.
I'm considering it, because
I'm considering it as well.
Because
they're kind of expensive. Well, yeah. The good ones are kind of expensive.
But I mean, to cut down on a lot of
fat.
Yeah. So it's a consideration. You know. Yeah.
Although I always feel like you could kind of get the same thing in an oven, because, for example, let's say. If you have a baking dish that has like a rack in it, like the kind of where the oil can settle in the
roasted
bottom.
sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could have
you eat beef and so on, right? Okay, right. So let's say if you did a pot roast or whatever.
Yeah.
And you put it, but then if you have it with gravy and so on, you could still. If you did it on like one of those things that allows the thing to settle at the bottom, you're still gonna get out most of the fat. So It's not like you're eating that every day. It's like what you were saying earlier, moderation. Everything in moderation, you know.
So, it's
so we
Tuesday
have
today.
we have 4 winners. We're gonna have some more giveaway. I think I might be doing some. I think I might do an additional 2 during the spin cycle. So
okay,
4 winners. I'm gonna present these ticket winners to our front desk and our manager, and these tickets will be also you have the tickets there, right?
Yeah, the tickets.
So I guess
are
you
here.
can bring them over
I'll
here.
bring them over. Yeah.
And I will write up this nicely and hand
For
them.
persons who want to see,
Yes.
you know, the tickets.
Oh yeah,
they look really nice. Yeah.
They are the tickets.
Yeah, they look really nice.
Okay. So those of you listening on the radio, you really want to see the ticket, then maybe you need to listen up for some more questions. We're going to be doing that. I think I might do that on the spin cycle as well. And then tomorrow as well on Island Tea. And yeah, you know, there's a sitting of the House of Assembly there.
Oh, at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
At 10 o'clock. You guys didn't check. Remember I was telling you guys where you could check the SKNIS Facebook page.
And they're supposed to be given the... I usually check where they would say what bills would be discussed.
So you don't have any idea what they are before you go?
No, I didn't check.
Okay.
I didn't check.
Let me see if I can...
Yeah, let's see.
If we can we're not bringing it, but at least at the very least we can do is let you guys know what is going to be discussed. Yes, House of Assembly this morning, so start at 10, so hopefully they would have started already.
It's 10:03, Jamster.
It's 10:03.
Yeah. You think it's a Nevis?
I know. I deliberately said that. I'm being charitable.
I do.
Let me see what these callers have to say. Caller, go right ahead. Caller, go right ahead.
Yes.
Hey, culture.
It's why you keep saying how you love potato.
Yes.
Well, let me show how much you know about potato. Let me turn down the radio. Just hold on.
Yes.
Okay, I'm here looking. Yeah, go ahead, culture.
When you get a potato and you wash it off and you just put it in the pot with the water to boil and you cook, what you call that?
Okay, you wash off the potato.
Boiled potato?
Yeah, you just put it in the pot, so?
Nobody does that, no. Well, I mean, the only time I do that is for soup.
For soup?
Yeah, usually.
You know what you call that?
What?
Boiled potato in your jacket.
Well, yeah, of course.
You. Thank you, culture. Thank you for that comedic relief.
Okay, culture.
Yes.
Culture is killing me.
Don't forget to give me a buzz, eh?
Yes, culture. Yes,
right.
yes. Thank you for that. Thank you for that reminder. And Jamster, have you seen it? Because when you told me that the House of Assembly was meeting yesterday, I didn't realize that. I don't know. Maybe it was me. Maybe I didn't realize, but I don't find it was as publicized as the others. I don't know. Maybe it's me, because maybe I didn't get the chance to see it. But
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. It wasn't as publicized as the others have been. So I don't know if it was that situation where they would have indicated it previously and expected persons to know or remember, but usually it's publicized before. But other than that one post, I didn't see any information.
Yeah, well, I'm doing a search here and I'm not returning any results for that particular that today's sitting. So what I'll do is, I guess, in the early part of the spin cycle, I'll let them know.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's gonna do it for now. So I'll see you tomorrow. And Candy, hope you feel better tomorrow.
Come out, Candy. Make sure you drink that tea. That those bush teas, those herbal teas, so you could get a lot better. So you could be back here tomorrow to distribute the tea.
Oh, she'll be fine tomorrow. Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. We wish you well.
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, folks. Spin cycle coming up next. I will see if I can find some information on the on what they're going to be talking about, what they're going to be tabling legislation-wise at today's sitting of the National Assembly. Okay, Azad.
Yeah.
Here we go.
That's it.
We're different. We're 98.9.